as today Dr.
Just
Professor
call me Leila.
Leila
Just call
Chamankhah.
me Leila. Don't worry. Okay.
Okay, Professor Leila, madam. So, she will be speaking to us on the concept of felicity in philosophy and mysticism. Well, we have listened to her many times before in philosophy family, and very good lectures they were, and they attracted a lot of discussions. And we also wish that today too a good discussion will be there. On the lecture of Professor Leila Chamankhah, madam. So with these words, I request Professor Chamankhah, madam, to come and sir talk. In the meantime, I'll be trying to share her slides. Okay. So I request madam, and also I welcome all the members who have joined this webinar to be to listen to Professor Chamankhah, and I wish that we should all participate in the interaction session so that the evening goes on good with a nice academic in a nice academic way, and I hope we'll learn a lot from the talk of Dr. Leila Chamankhah. So with these words, I request Professor Chamankhah to come and talk. But in the meantime,
Okay.
I'm trying to share your slides.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. This is
Thank you.
very. Thank you. You saved my. Okay, and then you can go ahead. Hello, everyone. Since we are running out of time and we are already behind the scheduled time, so I'm going to start my lecture on the concept of felicity in philosophy and mysticism. Before everything else, next slide, please. Clarification on terminology. Okay. What does felicity mean? Felicity has been defined vast, if not to say arbitrarily, by philosophers as well as Sufis and mystics. Obviously, the first people.
Can you see the slide? Well, is the slide shared now? Can anybody tell me, please?
Do you want me? Do you want me to disappear and you just see the
No, no, you
slide?
are there. Let you be there. You'll be there. I just want to confirm whether the slide is being shared. Okay, okay, okay. Very nice, very nice. Please tell me when to change the slide. Okay, thank you, thank you. Okay, anyway, thank you.
Okay. For now, we are good to be on this page. Obviously, the first people who defined felicity were Greeks, and they defined it as eudaimonia. The forerunner of any discussion on felicity in Greek eudaimonia is Aristotle, who conceptualized it in the context of his discussion on politics in his books, the Nicomachean Ethics. In Aristotelian political philosophy, politics and ethics are inseparable from each other, but because politics is regarded as a supreme science with the ability of putting things in order. And since every man's action has a purpose or an objective which must be to attain khair or good, therefore the object of politics as the most honorable science and action of man is to bring good in polis, or Greeks, nation states. Hence, everything relies on politics, from arts to sciences to peace and to war. And as such, politics is inseparable from ethics, whose khair called felicity or eudaimonia. Although it may look like that personal ethics is the best venue for actualizing felicity, but for Aristotle's civic life, including relationship between citizens, which runs through polis, is the best place to materialize felicity. Politics is the highest of sciences because it discusses eudaimonia as the supreme good of society. Next slide, please, Doctor. Yeah, the familiarity of philosophers with Greek philosophy. Yeah, this is a good place. The familiarity of philosophers with Greek philosophy, particularly with the writings of Plato as the founding father of political philosophy, and Aristotle as the one with whom this brand of philosophy came to an end, borne fruit in the integration of Greek philosophy into an Islamic Iranian context. I'm not going to discuss the journey of Greek philosophy into Muslim societies or into an Iranian culture here, because this journey has been studied by others before in a better way. However, since I'm going to discuss the conception of felicity or other related words who were used by philosophers and Sufis and mystics, I need to touch upon some aspects of Greek terminology inevitably. We know that the Greeks used the term eudaimonia as, roughly speaking, the state or condition of good spirit, which is commonly translated as happiness and welfare. In the writings of Aristotle, particularly in the aforementioned the Nicomachean Ethics, eudaimonia is the main goal of ethics and political philosophy as well. And plus arte and phronesis, which is practical and ethical wisdom, makes a trio based on which Aristotelian ethics is made. The first philosopher who discussed felicity at length in an Islamic Iranian milieu is Al-Farabi, who discussed it in his book entitled آراء أهل المدينة الفاضلة, or the city of felicity. Farabi's understanding and conception of this term lacked the socio-political angle of the Greeks. Because for him, who lived during the Buyids, whose political culture was a combination of Persian and Greek, felicity must be understood in shadow of a bigger crisis which had damaged Iran after the collapse of the Sassanids. What Farabi says about felicity is that felicity as well as felicitous city are both a part of the world of these entangled beings. Or probably it is better to say that they are established in the world of rational abstracts and has nexus to the philosophy of morality as well as political philosophy. Next slide, please. So felicity as a virtuous city, as a virtue, should be actualized in an ideal city. However, as I mentioned before, although Farabi used to understand felicity as a virtue whose actualization, or better to say existence, associates closely with city or with polis, but he lacks any political philosophy, unlike his Greek counterparts. Pertinent to this is his understanding of prophethood, which although has come to an end thousands of years ago, but its continuation will be the concept of will be philosopher king of the felicitous city, itself as the continuation of the city of the prophet. Furthermore, there is the concept of hikmah, roughly philosophy, as the religion of the city of felicity. We can conclude that although his felicitous city is to be an alternative for the despotic and unjust caliphate, but he lacks political philosophy and categorizes his felicitous city under pure philosophy, but paves way for further conception of felicity by Muslim and Iranian philosophers. According to him, all the existing governments of his time are wrong, with no association to felicity and happiness, because they lack hikmah or philosophy. Along with hikmah or philosophy, pleasure is also important, both spiritual and mental, which is called eudaimonia. So Farabi basically thinks and writes within the framework of Greek philosophy, particularly Aristotelian philosophy. The concept of felicity allows Farabi to condemn the illegitimate caliphate of his time, and reflects on the ideal government, which is based on hikmah, as well as possibility of establishment of the ideal city. The point is to know felicity was public and was associated with public good or public interest. The next philosopher, would you please? Yes. The next philosopher is Abul Hassan Amiri, who is as important as Farabi in his conceptualization of felicity. He has a book called As-Sa'ada wal-Is'ad, which means felicity and happiness. The main concern of the author in this book, with the word felicity on it, is to elucidate on happiness and felicity as virtue in line with Greek philosophers and their moral writings on eudaimonia on one hand, and pre-Islamic Iranian writings on statecraft and political philosophy on the other. Regarding this, for Amiri, felicity is categorized under the philosophy of morality or ethics. His discussion on justice as a civic virtue and a nexus or link between politics in a felicitous city in this world and hereafter between politics and ethics. Omari's perception of felicity has a connection to ideal government, which ends up in a felicitous life in this world and hereafter. And last but not least, Farabi, Omari, and many other philosophers who followed them debated felicity in shadow of the most eminent political and philosophical debated felicity as the most eminent political and philosophical question of their time. For Omari, moral purification is more important than civil reform. And this is how he departs from Greek understanding of felicity, where felicity is civil and to be actualized in the city. Omari's felicity has nothing to do with city, but with man and his moral improvement. In case of Farabi and Omari, the conception of felicity is part of practical philosophy, while in Greeks it is part of theoretical philosophy. Although civil dimension of akhlaq was important in Omari, and it is in akhlaq or ethics where he conceptualized felicity, but it doesn't mean that he had political philosophy or any kind of reflection on politics and social issues like his Greek counterparts. The next philosopher, next slide please. The next philosopher is Avicenna, who is as important as Farabi and Omari on his conception of felicity. So his writings on politics are consisting of his conception of felicity and a felicitous life of people of the city or Ahl al-Madinah. He discusses the felicity of the soul and, like Greeks, argues that soul will reach happiness when it reaches the state of tajarrud, or detachment from this world, which is an intellectual world devoid of any worldly attachments, and it is attainable both in this world and hereafter. For him, as Dr. Hossein Nasr emphasizes, felicity associates, direct quote, with purification of the soul and knowledge of the intelligible world, the world of light, which is descended into this world. For him, felicity is the highest goal or aim, and it is a virtue per se, and therefore is essential and not accidental. He defines felicity as justice, which is the culmination of all the merits in man's activities. In the same way, guidance to felicity is the highest guidance because guidance is evaluated based on the goal it attains. And since attainment of felicity is the highest goal of man, therefore its guidance is the highest, or al-khair al-ala, or the greatest good in Aristotelian philosophy. He has another classification of felicity that I'm not going to discuss it here because it's a different chapter into the discussion of felicity in Avicenna. The next philosopher is Tusi, Khaja Nasiruddin Tusi. Next slide, please. Yes. So, Khaja Nasiruddin Tusi's contribution to the existing tradition of the conception of felicity is worth mentioning. Like his predecessors, particularly Farabi and Avicenna, he believes in the necessity of external requirements for the actualization of felicity, such as sociopolitical situation that can activate internal requirements, and argues that felicity should be actualized in city or polis, called the ideal city, and should be based on hikmah, or divine knowledge, or hikmah is called philosophy, generally speaking, that in a felicitous city makes a set of regulations at the center of which exists common good. For pre-positive philosophers, felicity is the culmination of goods and virtues, which will be done in society. Pertinent to this is felicity's association with gnosis, which is obtained by the assistance of the active intellect, or angels, and that is why revelation is important. In one word, the Peripatetics see the felicitous city as the continuation of prophethood, with hikmah, which connects to revelation through active intellect, as its center. For instance, for Farabi, a successful union between intellect and revelation is a way to felicity, while for Ibn Sina, the prophet or Nabi is the interpreter of Sharia and Hikmah as the spirit of the felicitous city, and for Khaja Nasir, Imams are the successor of the Prophet and therefore are supporters and adherents of a society and ethical happy life. Pertinent to this is Tusi's stance and the ways felicity must be attained. Attainment of felicity needs a requirement, which is a wise and healthy life. However, felicity is part of his ethics and comes to man when he and she has been able to reach perfection, and the happiness and joy of this achievement makes him felicitous. So, Saada or happiness finds its true meaning when it associates with good. If an action guides you to good, both personally and communally and non-personally, with hikmah at its center, then it is felicity. Given this, felicity does not have any value by itself, but its value is accidental. Felicity with perfection as its requirement makes a wise, reasonable lifestyle. He gives two definitions for felicity, one general and the other one personal. And for him, joy and happiness are equated to felicity. Pertinent to this is the modulation of felicity as well as of unhappiness, and that the majority of people enjoys a relative felicity and only a very few people live in absolute felicity or absolute unhappiness. And fools are something in between. Since for him felicity is a station of the soul, therefore it's very personal and changes. It is very personal and changes from this person to another. One may give your soul felicity and feel you felicitous may not work for the others. Felicity and joy are attained after perfection and completion, and these two are attained after the absorption of hikmah. In terms of the relationship between perfection and felicity, three things matter: attaining completion, the fruit of the completion, and the joy, which is a feeling and comes with it. The next philosopher is Ghazali. You are on the right place in terms of these slides, Professor. So Ghazali has conceptualized felicity in a book with the same name, The Alchemy of Happiness, which is the Persian summary of another book, Revivification of the Sciences of Religion, which is in Arabic, which was in Arabic and it was lengthier than that. And as Hussein Nasr has said rightly, direct quote, it is perhaps the most influential work on ethics in Islamic history. Although Ghazali lived before Tusi, but since we were discussing peripatetic philosophers, we put Tusi in line with his peers, such as Farabi, Amiri, and Avicenna. Ghazali is a shift from all these philosophers and representing a different era when mysticism is part of any kind of philosophizing things. For him, felicity means kamal or perfection. Means kamal and perfection. According to a hadith of the Prophet, the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Al-Ghazali has stated that the difference between fear of the Creator and fear of the creature is that when one is afraid of a creature, one runs away from it, but when one is afraid of God, one runs toward him, and this is called felicity. So for Ghazali, felicity has nothing to do with politics or with society, but it's totally spiritual and moral state of, state, and it is very personal. And it is, actualized, it is attained when one goes through purification of hearts, and because he was a Sufi before him being a philosopher. The next philosopher is Sohrawardi. For Sohrawardi is famous as Sheikh al-Ishraq. For him, Gnosis is so critical that its attainment is a prologue to felicity, which belongs to a higher realm or the realm of light, as opposed to the corporal or physical felicity, which is attainable by everyone. The felicity which comes out of the realm of light is just attainable by the elite, by a very few, and not by everybody. Sohrawardi's conception of felicity has a nexus to light, which is also called blessings or mercy. Light has a different nature, which is of the other world, and that is why it is called felicity and blessings. While the material felicity is attainable by people who are seeking worldly things. By classifying people into two categories of simple and non-simple, and the second one into two groups of perfect and imperfect, Sohrawardi concludes that those who had both the willingness and the opportunity to do goods are called non-simple, perfect people, and they are felicitous. The natural disposition of non-simple, perfect, and pure souls is made of light and intellect, which is obviously hero intelligence, and they have both gnosis and the chance to do right things. Their otherworldly felicity is also non-corporal too. He calls this kind of felicity of light, or felicity comes from light, and is equated to joy and pleasure. Opposite of this group is non-simple, imperfect, and impure souls, which suffer in this world and will remain in it forever, and suffer in the hereafter. Sohrawardi writes, because there is a correspondence between happiness and light, everything that is generated from it becomes joyful, luminous spirit. Because of the correspondence of soul with light, souls flinch from darkness and are happy in beholding lights. The next philosopher and mystic is Ibn Arabi. Next slide, please, Professor. Yeah. For Ibn Arabi, since everything is a reflection of divine names and attributes, then worldly felicity is just a reflection of his or God's mercy and rahmah. Ibn Arabi's discussion is also associated with knowledge and perfection or kamal as two inseparable parts of mercy and its reflection on man, which is felicity. He goes further to state that God created the cosmos only for felicity in its essence. These assertions also imply that God has placed us in such a cosmos in order to be felicitous. The knowledge he talks about is not theoretical but practical or a lifestyle. The next philosopher is Mullah Sadra. For him, felicity or sada is a good for itself and not accidental. Felicity is the supreme khair, which is sought for itself and not for something else, and therefore all other activities of man should be directed to this end. So it is the main goal. In Sadra, felicity is equal to nirvana in Buddhism, and it is obtained when one actualizes his inherent potential for perfection. And it has to do with nafs or self, whose gnosis is a key to actualization of man's potential, both spiritual and physical, and personal virtues, and therefore to felicity. For Sadra, perfection is important, and it means closeness to God. The one who becomes successful in doing this is called Hakim, because he or she has gained the truthful hikmah. So far, hikmah or knowledge or divine knowledge has been an inseparable component of any discussion on felicity, and this is defined as a gnosis of wujud, as well as the unification of man's soul with active intellect, which is the climax of happiness in man. Mullah Sadra was the product of his time, and his elaboration on felicity should be understood in a broader context. When a synthesis of Sharia and Sufism shaped an intellectual milieu within which any general philosophy and rational thinking made sense. Sufism was understood through the lens of Sharia, and this will explain why Sadra defined felicity as closeness to God. Quite new in the tradition of conception of felicity, and he has taken it from Ibn Arabi. Okay. Also, since any reflection on politics and philosophizing police or Medina have lost its significance long time ago, since after to see any understanding of felicity became an ethical, moral initiative devoid of any political or civic dimension. Sadra gave little to no attention to what his predecessors had done, which was to completely focus on pure philosophy with bold mystical colorings. In a nutshell, for Sadra and all Sadrian Hakims who came after him, felicity is rather inwardly than a civic and political virtue. Now we go to Sufis and poets. In the Sufi discourse, felicity has been equated with joy, happiness, and perfection, inter alia. For instance, in Rumi's poetry, knowledge is very important, and it is this kind of knowledge or gnosis that can lead man back to God through the path of happiness and felicity. Obviously, Rumi is opposite to philosophers who define felicity as the peak or perfection, because for him it is the path to a kind of knowledge, which is the result of a joyful lifestyle and is called wonder or astonishment. Sadi of Shiraz, next slide please. Yes. Sadi of Shiraz, who is widely regarded as one of the 10 most important poets of all time, in both Golestan and Bustan, regards man's efforts to felicity, which will be done by doing good deeds and avoiding wrongdoing, as the only thing which differentiates man from animals. So felicity is basically perfection and endows man an everlasting life. And what motivates man to conduct good deeds and avoid wrongdoing is intellect, which is a God-given gift. Therefore, for Sadi, felicity is ethical and is defined as a reasonable and virtuous life, which with justice as its center. So, an ethical life is a virtuous life, which endows man an everlasting felicity, because the one who lives felicitous in this world will benefit from a happy life in the hereafter. Next slide, please. Yes, it's finished. I'm going to Hafiz now. Yes. Hafiz of Shiraz uses felicity as dolat, a combination of wealth, power, and blessings, which are of course non-material, and means contentment, which assists a novice or a traveler to obtain knowledge and become immortal. And from this perspective, he is like Rumi and a full-fledged Sufi perspective. In another verse, Hafiz advises us to detach ourselves from worldly attachments if we want to gain contentment, because wealth and power do not necessarily lead one to a good and felicitous life. Or in the same ghazal, he says that the lighter you are, the happier you are. Therefore, for Hafiz, felicity is equated to words such as happiness, contentment, non-material dolat, and of course, darwishi, being darwish, means being content with whatever you have. To conclude, felicity in the writings of the philosophers and mystics that I mentioned is a state that includes both soul and body. And felicitous individuals feels happiness and bliss run through both his soul and body. Pertinent to this is the importance of gnosis, not only as a refreshener of soul and wisdom, but also in the case of philosophers as an inseparable component of any felicity conception. However, as we saw in the case of Rumi, the science of wonder and astonishment is the result of felicity and not way around. In the hands of Muslim philosophers, particularly after the aforementioned Khaja Nasir Tusi, felicity lost its political and civic orientation and became equated with individual perfection, whose potential is gifted to us from God. Given this, felicity is different from this person to another, because the path differs for everyone. This definition of felicity is divergent from Aristotelian one, which was inherited by the classics such as Farabi, Amri, and Avicenna. The culmination of such an understanding is Mullah Sadra, who adheres felicity as perfection of soul as well as closeness to God, which testifies the influence of mysticism on his thoughts, as opposed to philosophers such as Avicenna, Farabi, and Amri. Thank you.
Okay.
Hopefully, I
Okay.
haven't run out of time, right? I think I still have a little bit of time.
Yes, madam, you have a lot of time, no problem. Time is there, madam. Time is there. Okay. So, thank you very much, madam, for your talk, because we could come across a number of Arabic thinkers actually whom we did not know previous. Rather, we have not listened to them, or rather, we have never
That's
studied.
fine. I am here to explain and
Yes, yes.
elucidate
That's how
more
we
if
are
you
feeling.
have any.
Except say if you say Al Ghazali, Al
Okay.
Farabi, huh?
Al-Farabi is the first
No,
philosopher that I mentioned his name. He's a philosopher. He is one of the most important philosophers who incorporated Aristotelian philosophy into an Iranian milieu, Iranian intellectual context. And then we have Avicenna. Avicenna actually is a Western name of Ibn Sina. So he is known in the West as Avicenna. And then the other one was Al-Amiri. They are just names, right? The next one was Tusi, Al-Ghazali, Mullah Sadra, Sohrawardi. They are names of philosophers and mystics. Probably you were more familiar with Rumi, Sadi, and Hafiz than these philosophers. But in my opinion, since I mean these these philosophers' conceptions of felicity and happiness have not been discussed, adequately in the past, I thought it is necessary to at least introduce them to an Indian intellectual context, to this, at least to this venue, because there are a number of intellectuals and scholars here. So that is why I focus my work on these people whose works are not that, I mean, known or famous in India. So if you have any question, I am here to explain and shed more light on.
yes, madam. Thank you, thank you, thank you, madam. Well, we could learn actually, as you said, that it's an introduction from the knowledge, the treasure that is there in the Arabian writings that you are making us known. So we are thankful for that, and so over the
I wanted,
tradition.
go ahead, please.
Or the tradition, as we could understand that that felicity is happiness, and how you try to see this happiness as not just you try to see it's a sort of moral purification. It's more important. It's important, and it's much more important than the ordinary civil reforms that we undertake. And you try to say felicity lies in attaining a sort of perfection, and you said and in this perfection one comes close to God. And referring to Rumi, you made a reference to knowledge as a knowledge blended with happiness is the road to God. And finally, when you talked about Hafiz, we think you have come and it's a closeness to what we have in the Indian texts too, where we say that detachment from the worldly attachments would make us lighter and can help us to elevate to that supreme reality, which even in the philosophy or the mystical conceptions of Hafiz also, you said the lighter you are, the more happier you are, as you ended in the last slide. So that conception is there also in the Indian text. Well, we have with us the scholars. I request Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir to have his observations on the talk of Professor Leila Chamankhah. Professor Ghosh.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. Let us congratulate Dr. Leila for bringing us into the domain of medieval Islamic scholars who just started, who thought over this concept of felicity. Now, the thing is, what I have gathered from her lecture, let us keep Aristotle for some later discussion. First, you see, from Al-Farabi downwards up to Al-Ghazali. So, they have tried to brought the concept of felicity in an external situation, because socio-political situation they have given importance, which can bring
True.
us happiness. But then Al-Ghazali downwards till Hafiz, they have made it a form of felicity as something internal.
That's
So
right.
the philosophical question centers around this, whether felicity is internal or external. Now,
Thank you.
Aristotle is quite clear on this issue, because when he brought this concept of eudaimonia, eudaimonia is something which is which is something internal in nature, because it is a state of mind. It is a state of the soul, and it is more like the Gita's concept of sthita pragya. You can say that eudaimonia is a state where we don't require the external things in order to bring happiness for us. And that is why I suggest that the entire discussion should center around on this, whether felicity is internal or external. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you want me to explain, or do you want me to explain, Professor Ranji?
Yeah, you please.
Okay, that's a very good question. For even for Aristotle, it is not just an internal state of mind and heart. And even for Aristotle, it's also political and civic, because he believes that eudaimonia will be actualized only in police. So that is why eudaimonia, any Aristotelian conception of eudaimonia or felicity, is done under his political philosophy. He argues that although it is an internal state of situation, mind, and heart, but you cannot be happy and content with life when you don't live in a good society. That is the So Al-Farabi, Amri, and Avicenna followed the same line. Avicenna less, but Al-Farabi and Amri more. But as become, we get close to Ghazali and even to see political, socio-political situation, civic situation, or civic situation is less important than spiritual situation, and that is why felicity is defined, when we come to Ghazali, is defined just as an internal virtue, as an internal state, than something which needs, although it is an internal state, but it needs external requirements to be actualized. I'm saying Ghazali is completely, Ghazali's philosophy does not care about political situation, because he was a Sufi. And what else do you expect from a Sufi? For him, purification of heart, having access to intellect, to active intellect or angels in Islamic, text and culture, are more important than, and then gnosis, which is divine or divine knowledge, are much more important than socio-political situation out there. That is why he just cares about, discusses philosophy, felicity from the perspective, or happiness from the perspective of, it's very personal, and from the perspective of a Sufi who cares about, who cares about how man should live, should have a happy life, and this happiness is just being annihilated in God and being close to God, etc., etc. And then the tradition that Ghazali establishes paves the way for later philosophers, particularly Mullah Sadra and others after him. After Ghazali, philosophy, Islamic philosophy, does not concern itself with political dimension of felicity. It's just internal. It's just an internal state, and because Sufism becomes important, and it has other reasons that I cannot discuss it here, but it has discussed by other, people as well. So, due to the supremacy of Sufism and this Sufi mindset over philosophy and political philosophy, the conception of felicity changes. We have a discursive change or shift from felicity being both internal and external to felicity being just internal. And then when we come to to the life of to the philosophy of Rumi, Hafiz, Saadi, and other poets, philosophy is just the felicity. The more you are detached from external world and material world, the closer, the happier you are, and the more felicitous you are, which is completely in opposite, in contrast to the classics such as Avicenna, Farabi, and Al-Amri. That was the main argument that I had here. Hope it is clear now.
I
Well,
think
You
we
are
can accept
silent.
Al-Ghazali and Suhardi's position. We can accept. Okay, that is because they are suggesting the internalization of it. But you see, in India, there is one tradition, that is Shramana tradition, Shramana. They try to, we have just kept it as a something of a associated with soul. But you see, they derive pleasure or happiness, whatever it may be. They have not, Professor Srivastav is there, he can very well explain to us. Because Sramanas, they get pleasure out of taking penance, out of taking all sorts of bodily torture to themselves so that they can enlighten themselves. So this is
So you
a
speak
tradition.
about Jainism?
So in this way, we have to very careful about this, that whether this felicity is internal or external. It may be may require the socio-political situations, others external things for bringing happiness for us. But that is a very debatable issue. That's why I'm suggesting this. Thank you. Thank you.
thank you, Professor Ghosh and Dr. Professor Leila Chamankhah. What Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir more interested in is whether for Aristotle, if we go by Aristotle, how is this happiness seen? Because Aristotle was much concerned about the state, politics, and all that. Whether we see in Aristotle an importance being given to happiness in an external sense, or whether there is a stress more on the internal, happiness. Okay, so that is one question. Well, one more thing in your lecture, what I can find is when we talked of Nasir al-Din Tushi, there you made a transition from the external to the internal. That is the transition phase, because it says the social and political conditions can influence the internal condition. So internal happiness is defined by some sort of the external condition. So from as I see, as Professor Ghosh even pointed out, the transition from the external to the internal, it is in Nasir al-Din Tushi. From there, a sort of external happiness helping to a sort of leading to activation of some internal happiness that has occurred there. So the question is again whether for Aristotle happiness means the external one or the internal one. This is one. But before that, you answer, we have with us Vamsidhar Cherukapalli. Well, he has raised his hand. Maybe we can learn something from him. Then we will move to Avinash. Yes, Vamsidhar. Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, good morning, good evening, sir.
Sir, namaskar, sir.
Sir, namaskar. My question to Mr. Leila, madam. Actually, I wanted to ask you a small kind of question.
Kindly speak loudly, sir. Kindly speak loudly.
Okay, sir. Sir. Okay, fine. So my question is to you, Madam Leila, madam. Namaste, madam. Uh, and here, just as a perception of Sufis, is a formless God or formed God? In what view we want to understand the God in the perspective of Sufis? And then, is he similar to Messiah in Christianity or some other? Or next one is, the Buddhist way of approach is godless and selfless, soulless like. So, whenever you accept in your life God and soul, then the attachments and everything will be faced. So it may leads to very difficult moments. So if Sufis accept the God and soul, how they can be happy with their lives, and how we can understand the philosophy of Sufis. That is my question, madam.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, madam.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I
Please.
hear myself and it echoes to me. It is not good.
Professor Vamsidhar sir, please,
Unmute,
please,
unmute, sir. Mute.
please.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sir. Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
please.
Vansidhar, हाँ.
Okay. In Islamic context, God is, I mean, we have absolute monotheism. This is the first point. The second point is that God has personal attributes, such as, I mean, although we do not see him, we can't see him, he is beyond our comprehension. His zat or essence is completely away from our understanding and our ability to understand him as a human being, because we are not limitless. We are limited. Our mental and intellectual situation are not, I mean, are limited to grasp his essence. But he God has personal attributes, such as he becomes angry, he has mercy, he he has, I don't know, he has personal human attributes. Okay, this is God in Islamic philosophy. I mean, very general, I mean, image of God. So, and I don't understand, I mean, man should, human being should, in Sufism, should try to close himself to him and annihilate in him. And when he become fana in him, annihilate himself in him, then he finds a new life, which is living a forever or immortal life. This is annihilation, and through annihilation, then you have baqa or persistence. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but this is the image of God in Islamic mysticism and philosophy. I mean, Islamic culture, generally speaking. So God is not personified, for instance, in the image of Jesus Christ as we have it in Christianity. We do not have polytheism, it's absolute monotheism, but God has personal attributes, right? He's satisfied with you, he is angry with you, he has mercy, he has wrath, he punishes you, he forgives you. You know what I'm saying? God has 100 names and attributes in Islamic culture. So you need to try to have divine attribute just like him. And when you do that, you become like him. You are not him, but you are like him. This is the very rough image that I can portray for you. I hope I answered your question.
So God is a person wise. Just we need to see him as a
He
person
is
wise.
not a person.
Oh, no, 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 no. As we take as a person, like, means we have a notion like that. Is it our person, personally notion, or universal notion? God is, as per our Sufi.
I don't know. Would you please ask your question again?
No, no. If there is any problem, will be going to face of denying of God and soul.
Okay.
Practically, is it possible? If we deny God and soul, what will be the problem to the humankind totally? That's it. That is my
Well,
straight question to you.
according to Islamic culture, you cannot deny him, because I mean, this is a big sin. Denying him is just make you to step aside and step out of this religion for good. You cannot deny him. He is at the center of everything, and he shapes everything. He is the goal of Sufi, mystic, even philosophers. even philosophers. No, I mean, he is not deniable. You may not know him, you may not be able to get to know him, grasp his thought or essence. Yeah, you won't be able to do that. But you cannot deny him because he shows himself to you through his signs around you, or you yourself, and signs are out there in the nature, or yourself as human being is a sign reflecting him. He is not comprehensible to you, but you cannot deny him either.
Well, well,
Thank you.
well,
Thank you.
the question of Vamsidhar sir and the position that Professor Bose tried to raise, well, they are still to be discussed but answered. Well, we move to Krishnamurti sir because he was raising his hand. Okay, since long, well, Krishnamurti sir, well, Namaskar, please.
Uh, Good morning, Professor Dr. Leila. Are you able to hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir,
I'm
audible,
able
sir.
to hear you.
Okay. I'm really happy to see you after a long time. And that today you have chosen a very nice topic called the Felicity from the Aristotelian point of view of Nicomachean ethics, as well as Felicity in Al-Ghazali, Al-Harabi, Avicenna, and Sufi mysticism. It's really excellent. But then you have highlighted about the ways and means and how to attain joy, happiness, and perfection. But that is not going to be the end of life. It is only for the empirical world. It is not for the absolute world. In Sanatana Dharma, all this the desire emanates from ignorance called avidya. So the ignorance has to be rooted out in Sanatana Dharma. But whereas you say in your talk that Felicity is attaining the highest good as well as happiness and joy, that is not going to avoid your life of a cycle of birth and death. I hope you will accept that in your philosophy of Sufism or Islamism or Christianity. Whereas it differs a lot in Sanatana Dharma, where all these things emanate from avidya, ignorance, asmita called the I consciousness, and raga, dvesha, and the abnivesha called the fear of death. All these things have to be removed so that a Sanatana Dharmi can reach the heaven, the abode of heaven. So there is a distinct difference between all these points which we have discussed and the Sanatana Dharma. How do you comprehend all these things in Sufism, Islamism, and Christianity, which you spoke about it? Thank you.
Would you please rephrase your question, just your question? I mean, I benefited from your discussion and your note, your comment.
Okay.
But please rephrase your question.
Okay. In short, do you believe in the concept of cycle of birth and death in Christianity and Sufism and Islamism? Because there is a concept in Hinduism called Sanatana Dharma. How do you comprehend this? Do you believe that or not? As per your scriptures.
Concept of what, Professor?
The cycle of birth and death.
Madam, please.
Life and death. Okay. Okay. Life and death, right? Of course. I mean, we do not believe in. Is that a question, the concept of life and death in Islam? Okay. I'm not familiar with Christianity, but I believe as one of the Abrahamic religions, We share a lot with Christianity and Judaism. We do not believe in reincarnation. It is not accepted in Islamic culture. We don't believe unification, or God and man have lots of similarities. Man needs to be close to him. Man needs to be try to unify with him. But there is always a difference. There is always a difference between him and God. So unification or both of them being one is not acceptable as well. So no reincarnation, no unification, no pantheism. And since we believe in soul, our Islamic culture believes in soul. When you die, your body, your corporal stuff will be annihilated or demolished, but your soul will remain and will be resurrected again and will be. This is a very important thing in Islamic philosophy, that how do you resurrect in the hereafter if your body is demolished? It's a different thing. It's a different chapter. But if the question is about reincarnation, that, for instance, you have in... I'm sorry, what is difficult? What is difficult? The voice is not clear, or the thing that I say is not difficult. I think
No,
the
your
voice is
voice
not clear.
no, your voice is reaching us. Maybe your voice is not reaching Professor Srivastav. That's what he's saying. Your voice
Oh,
is not reaching properly. He's saying bit.
Now it is
Now
clear.
it's
Now it
well,
has
carry
become
on,
clear.
man.
okay. So, if comparatively, no, we don't have reincarnation. Absolutely not, and it is not acceptable. So when you die, you die. It's just one life. There is no cycle of life that you go back again. No, and you will be resurrected sometime that we don't know. And then you have to answer the things that, because of the things that you have done in this world, wrongdoing, good things, etc., etc. It's just life. It's a linear life and not a cyclical one. I think the same thing is about Christianity and Judaism. So there is no pantheism, no unification, no nothing. It's just straightforward. Hope I answered your question.
Okay, but then what happened to the soul after death? Because the felicity
Well,
leads to happiness, and ultimately one man has to die, whether he is a Islamist or a Christian or a Hindu. But the Hindus believe that the soul has to reach the heaven or the Brahmaloga or Brahmatma. Whereas in your philosophy, it says soul will go, that's all. That's the end of it. That is linear. It is not cycle of birth and death. I am not able to comprehend that.
Sir, there should not be any comparison in that way, because it is a very clear, she has given a very clear reply that in Islam there is God. We cannot see him, but he has some human qualities. So far as the question of souls are concerned, he has created numerous souls, but the concept of reincarnation is not there. This is the simple things he has tried to explain us. And what happened thereafter, after the physical death of the, after the death of the body, soul never dies. It remains in the paradise or in the hell. This is the basic things he is telling. But what I want to ask from her, just I'm forgetting the name of the philosopher. He said ki after having felicitation, he becomes perfect, and after certain stage, he becomes immortal. What she wants to say, because souls are immortal all the time, whether they are in hell or in the heaven. But what happens after felicitation? It becomes perfect, all right, and it becomes immortal. So, what can we explain us? What do you mean by this term immortal there? Though it was a wonderful explanation. I congratulate her from the core of my heart, because I have not heard the entire history of Sufism.
right from, she has given a wonderful speech in that way, and she has narrated a lot of thinkers, the Sufi thinkers, and from Rumi and so many persons. I cannot I cannot remember all because I was not penning it down. However, the last one, she said, after this felicitation, the person becomes immortal. Kindly explain it, a spotlight on that. What do you mean by immortal? By the term immortal in context of the human being who is felicitated and who becomes perfect. Please.
Okay. Thank you so much for all these warm words. Thank you. So, I mean, man becomes immortal. I talk about, I mean, in terms of his or her soul and not the body. I mean, when you have a felicitous life in this world, which is a prologue to another world according to Islamic culture, right? When you have a felicitous life in this world, you will have a felicitous life in the hereafter, and your soul becomes immortal. I mean,
The souls are always immortal because तेरे नायाब बंदों की न ये दुनिया न वो दुनिया, यहाँ जीने पर पाबंदी वहां मरने पर पाबंदी. That is immortal there.
okay, immortal means that in forever felicitous situation.
Oh, right. In a elevated situation, in felicitated situation, in the perfect situation, they are immortal, and rest are either in the heaven or in the hell. This is the basic thing. Now I can
Yes.
misconstrue it because
Yes.
So, Professor Avinash, I think they don't have a concept of Brahman at all in Sufism and Christianity.
they do not have. They do not have, because it is their clear-cut stand, and she cannot dilute all these things because it has a. You see, Islam is a religion, though, and she is very much clear. She is very much clear that the God or Allah, whatever the term you can apply for him, is construed in a human attributes. But second thing is there, it cannot be visualized. You cannot see him. You can feel about him. And he has the every human attribute. He can punish you. He can give you the prize and all these things. So these things are there. Kindly don't try to compare the things in a two diametrically opposed, that we are having the Brahman, they are not having the Brahman. We have incarnation, they do not have the incarnation. The body, what dies is the body itself. Gita also says, Nainang chintanti shastrani, Nainang dahati papaka, na chainang kledyanti na shokhayati maruta. The only difference between Leila and Islam and our religion is our soul have got the power of transmigration. Either you are in hell or in heaven. After getting lost all the merits, you will come back to the earth. But this comeback is not there in Islam. She is very much clear in that way. Gita says, त्रैविद्यामां सोमपाः पूतपापा यज्ञो रष्ट्वा स्वर्गतिं प्रार्थयन्ते ते पुण्यमासाद्य सुरेन्द्रलोक मश्नन्ति दिव्यान् दिवि देवभोगान् ते त्वं भुक्त्वा स्वर्गलोकं विशालं क्षीणे पुण्ये मर्त्यलोके विशन्ति. But this concept is absent in Islam because the soul will never return. It doesn't have any sort of incarnation. They will stay there. My question was there that if they are not going to return and they will stay for here up to the age of Qayamat, then what is the difference between immortal, because the souls are always immortal till Qayamat? I think, and I feel, I may be correct, I may not be correct because he is the expert on that. I feel that if when a soul becomes immortal after felicitation, after getting perfection, in case of Kayamat, the rest will be punished and they will be burnt, and this soul, the perfect soul, the felicitated soul, will remain alive there. I think it is my opinion. I may be correct. I may I may not be correct. I may be incorrect also. Anyway.
Then the Dr. Leila explained the evolution theory
Sir, voice is not coming now. There's some problem in your, yeah.
accepting your principle that the soul remains immortal. How do you, interpret the evolution theory in Sufism and Islamism?
Sir, I think she should explain it. And if not, I will come forward to explain up to how much I have understood her. Because whatever I have learned from her because of she has given a very vast and detailed explanation of all these things. So your question was, sir? So evolution is always
Hello.
there.
Hello, shall I intervene? We are entering more into the metaphysical orientation of the situation, but
Right,
what
sir, right.
he is trying to suggest felicity as an ethical concept, as a moral concept, and for that reason, I think eudaimonia is the best thing where Aristotle is not only mentioning about happiness, he is talking about a good life. And that good life is having many denominators, and it is having the internal and the external features. And many researches are done on this issue of good life, and that is Dr. Leila must be aware of this situation, and that is what I think will be the right direction to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Ghosh. Well, one thing that comes to my mind to the question of Krishnamurti sir, and then the discussion by Srivastav sir and Leila madam. One thing that comes to my mind, well, when Professor Srivastav says that in Islam the souls are already they are immortal, then if I add up to Krishnamurti sir, then why this journey, why this life and all that, and taking the position of Ranjit Ghosh sir, what I see, I may be wrong, what I see is that the life on this world is to attain a state of perfection, the Sufi way. So the entire the transition is to, okay, as you said, that souls are already immortal, but the life on this earth is a life for perfecting the soul, okay, and leaving the body and reaching there again and not coming back. So that is the real purpose. So that's how we can, I think, we can understand why this life and all that. So this life is only for perfection. If we take Leila Chamankhah and Srivastav sir, it is just a journey for perfecting ourselves. And if we take Rumi, he says that happiness is the path, knowledge and happiness, they lead to God, and in a perfect way. So that is all I think, and I don't think there is any comeback and rebirth and all that.
No. It is not at all.
No, not at all. So there is a total that this life on earth is only meant for the purpose here is just perfection. That's what I could learn. Okay, thank you. Well, one more thing. Well,
This is for academic purpose, not for. I'm sorry.
well, you see, one thing that comes to my mind again. Well, you see, whether it may be Islam, whether it may be Christianity, whether it may be Hinduism, we have never encountered God. Though you say that they have revelations of God, the descriptions are many. You see, somebody who has a vision of God and somebody other who has a vision of God, the descriptions are different. Okay, had there been really an encounter of God, I don't know. I doubt. I maybe the description would have been same, but the descriptions are not matching. Lot of things that we are bringing in, we are giving qualities to God, we are describing him in a number of ways, okay, as we feel like, as we feel comfortable, thinking of the revelations. I'm not doubting the revelations, but had really God been there, I don't know, but the revelations are different. That's how the descriptions are different. But we keep on believing in God, okay, till we die, we keep on searching for him every moment. And with all certainty, I say we are never going to touch him someday. Okay, because we are limited in that sense. But the problem with the human man is we give him a number of qualities, whether it be Christianity, Hinduism, or Islam. We attribute him. We are not sure even that attribution is right or wrong. Okay, so one thing is very much clear: the purpose, the journey that we are on this planet is to perfect ourselves, and that is what even Dr. Chamankhah is saying. The entire goal, the entire purpose, from the historical summary that he has given, from finding happiness in the external and making a transition from external to internal in Nasir al-Din Tushi, and finally moving to Rumi and Sadi and Hafiz. She says that, and the perfection, she tries to find somewhere internal, and that is the perfection. Maybe this life with the body is to perfect that immortal soul, maybe to perfect that immortal soul, to be released again to that plane and not to come back again. So this is my understanding. I may be wrong. Well, there are people to comment on this. Well, Vamsidhar Chirukapalli, well, he has raised his hand again. Then we move to our admin to have his observations. Well, this is my understanding. Well, what I could learn from the entire discussion and the talk. Well,
Sir, the entire aspiration of the Islamic Sufi saints is to attain that stage of felicitation where they enjoy the bliss of the God. जहाँ रश्क करती है रूहे तमन्ना, हर एक उस मंजिल को मैं चाहता हूँ. This is the basic tenet, because in perfection what happens, you stay there in the state of bliss, in the highest happiness, that is called. So this is the basic concept. I think I may be incorrect, but this is the basic concept of Islam.
okay, sir. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Well, we move to Professor Pramod Kumar Das. Well, one more thing, let me add up here. Well, what Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir was pointing out, taking Aristotle, that both the external and the internal that matters, the happiness that matters in Aristotle. And for Aristotle, what is more important? Well, he is not negating the external. What is more, the highest happiness for Aristotle lies in, as in Nicomachean ethics, what we find is virtue, the practice of virtue. It's the highest happiness. Well, that and he makes a classification. So while in making a classification, he's not denying the external, he's not denying the external happiness, but he's saying all this should ultimately lead to the practice of virtue. And that is what even we find in the Islamic tradition, that in the practice of virtue itself, again, the moral refinement, the spiritual refinement, finding a perfection internally. And in that perfection, one finds himself in closeness to God, which Leila Madam even tried to say, tried to put forth before us. In this perfection, one finds a sort of closeness to God. And then in Rumi, he said, this happiness would ultimately lead to God. So thank you very much. Well, we have with us our admin Pramod Kumar Das. Well, let us move to him for his observations and ideas.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. I agree with all of you. Bansidhar Chakravarti sir, Ranjit Ghosh sir, Avinash Srivastav ji, and you too. And with Dr. Leila Madam. When we are talking about eudaimonia, that means well-lived life. That is the purpose of life. That is the goal of life. Well-lived. Our life should be well-lived. And in the conclusion, Dr. Leila Madam said, what are the parameters for being well-lived? One is happiness, the other is contentment, and the third one is non-material daulat. That means material property, material asset is not our wealth. We should know the art of detachment, vairagya. That means our life should be well lived.
Professor Das, please be louder.
Am I not audible?
Now more better. Now better. Now clear.
Oh, well, well
Shall I
said.
shall I shall I repeat what I said?
No, you are clear to me. Well, Professor Srivastav, he has to say. Well, you were audible earlier too. Now also. Now better.
I said eudaimonia means well lived life. This is a question to man whether he wants to live this life with perfection or not. Forget religion. Religion is immaterial here, whether it is Islam or Christian or Hinduism or Buddhism. We have a model. That model is eudaimonia, which says that man should live a perfect life. And well lived life means there should be a platform where man will live perfectly. That is a society. Because we have to live with others. We have to live in this empirical world. My being personally good has no meaning if I am not good to others. Therefore, Aristotle is speaking about both external and internal goodness, the highest good. I am good means I am good personally, and I am good means I am good for the society. Okay, 1 minute. One is happiness. The second one is contentment. What we should be satisfied with what we have, and we should be satisfied with the differences. Hinduism is not a problem for Islamic believer. Islamism is not a problem for Hindu believer, for a Hindu. Because I am satisfied with my religion and I am satisfied with other religions. The purpose of life is that my life should be well lived. Then we shall we shall set this theory, this model in different religions. I shall go with Bansidhara sir. He said one may not believe in God. He spoke about Buddhism. Nairatyavada, no soul is there, no God is there. What matters? Because my purpose is to be well lived in society. So, for being well lived in the society, for living a good life, a perfect life, God may not be believed. This is a model because the purpose of life is not hampered in the model of Buddhism. Similarly, if we shall take Islamic religion, they say when a man becomes perfect, that is nothing but the image of Allah. That is nothing but the image of God. Because God is the model of the highest good. So we should live a perfect life, and that is divine life. That is the image of God. So here the purpose of life is not hampered. If we shall fit this model in Bhagavad Gita, there also we say that we should follow Swadharma. We should our dharma is contextual. In this model also, we live a perfect life, irrespective of our belief or disbelief in God, because we focus on the ethical part of our life. We focus on happiness and goodness of life. Similarly, in other religions, there is no problem. So this is the very focal point. This is the very common point. Dr. Leila Madam is speaking about eudaimonia or felicity in that ethical sense, and because he is referring to Islamic religion, in that Islamic model, she believes in God, she believes in immortality of soul. So it is not a problem at all. But when other religious denominations are approaching, when somebody is speaking about Buddhism, somebody is speaking about Hinduism, somebody is speaking about Christianity, this common factor is not hampered. So this is the felicity of philosophy, and this is happiness is the highest state of mysticism. So this is my personal opinion. I shall go with Dr. Leila Madam. She presented very well, and I appreciate the remark of Dr. Ranjit Ghosh sir, who is repeatedly saying that virtue should be practiced internally and externally. If we are internally good, what for? It is for the society, it is for the welfare. So I was looking the dictionary. Eudaimonia really means happiness and welfare. Happiness is not the only meaning of eudaimonia. The another meaning of eudaimonia is welfare. So when we are speaking about welfare, here society comes, here others come. So this is external. Okay. So in this empirical world, we have to be perfect. We have to live perfect so that we can live a divine life. Whether there is a rebirth or not, these questions are metaphysical questions, as Ranjit Ghosh sir said, that we should not discuss it metaphysically. So far as ethics is concerned, the code of conduct is concerned, a perfect life is concerned, this will remain as a common factor in all religions. No religion is there in this earth who can reject this common factor that we should live a perfect life. We should live a life of happiness. We should live a life of contentment. We should live a life of happiness. This cannot be denied in any religion. This is my understanding. I agree with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Das. Thank you for your observations and comments. What I could see in Professor Srinivasan Krishnamurthy sir is the problem that he carries is, well, the stage on earth, if we believe that it is for perfection. Going by the Hindu line of Hinduism, well, believing in rebirth. So if somebody dies not being perfected, okay, so again, based on the past karmas, again he has to take birth, he or she has to take birth till the refinement occurs. Even we go by Buddhism, okay, it is believed in the Jataka tales that Buddha's birth is the 500th one, something like that. So number of births even Buddha has taken. So the problem lies there. So the problem is, well, this is the life on this earth is for living a perfect life. Well, the perfection is not reached. Death has occurred. Well, as Professor Srivastav said, that souls are already immortal. Now the question for Srinivasan Krishnamurthy sir is, if we go by the Islamic way, well, all of us don't, because even Al Ghazali, as referred by Professor Leila Chamankhah, said that perfection can only be achieved by a few. Everybody cannot attain perfection. Only a selected few can attain perfection. So if these selected few attain perfection, what about the rest? So they are not perfected, but they die. They are not coming back. So what is the fate? Okay, if those who are perfected, they become Allah, or they are not coming back. Things are clear. The problem that hangs in Krishnamurti sir is this, simply this: what about those souls which are not perfected in the life's journey on earth? Okay, because they are not coming back to be perfected again and again. So that's the problem that he carries. If anybody can solve this is a great contribution for the philosophy family, for the knowledge system itself.
Sir, so far as the question of immortality of the soul in Islam is concerned, they are immortal undoubtedly. But if they are not perfected, they will have to stay there in a painful situation in Jannat and Jahannam. So the persons who are not perfected and who are evil in the nature continue to be. They will not come back, but they will be punished there. And we too have these concepts. Heaven and hell, we are having it. The only difference between Islam and ours is in Islam there is no return, and till the time of judgment they will have to stay there having the fruits of their own karmic deeds. If perfected, they will live a nice life, happy life. If are not perfected, they will be in pain and annoying. So this is the basic thing. But they are not going to come. And so far as the evolution is concerned, they evolve on this earth only. This evolution is not given to them. There is no scope of evolution in heaven or hell. They will be static. And after the day of judgment, everything will be decided what will happen to them. And since the God is created there with the attributes of the human beings, as Leila Chamankhah has categorically said, so all these things you will find that he is doing in a justified way, because he is the most pure soul there. He is the God and he has no defilement, and he is very just person. He is the very just, and that's why he will treat the things as per the law of the karma. This
Sir,
much
sir,
I could
sir,
understand.
sir, sir, Dr. Ranjit Ghosh made it very clear. So far as the discussion about well-lived life, about happiness, about contentment, whatever we are discussing in the content of Dr. Leila Madam, that is not speculative, that is very practical, and it is common to all religions. If this is accepted, all the rest are speculations. This is not speculation. Whatever Krishnamurti is saying and giving the solution, that is only speculation. What will happen after my death? But now the question is, how can I live in this life at the present moment?
That is
That is common to all religions.
that is common to all the
Yes,
religions.
yes, and that is not
This is common
speculation.
to all the
That is
religions.
not speculation.
No, this
That
is
is
not
not
a
speculation.
speculation.
But
Ah,
your response, your answer about future life, response of X, Y, Z, all, they are different responses, different speculations. We are not going to that. We are finding the common factor in all religions, irrespective of all religions. This is common, that we should live a well-lived life, very perfect
that is
life.
true. That is true, sir.
This
That
much
is
she said.
like
But
this.
because she belongs to a particular religious denomination, that is Islamic tradition, she is saying, she is referring that religion. But we may refer our religion. But my point is, whatever religion may be referred, this common factor cannot be denied.
Yeah.
Not
So
even
long you are on the earth, so long
even
you are on the earth, you
yes,
will have to follow
even
this.
sir,
Sir,
even not in Buddhism, who does not believe in God and soul. My point is that.
I mean, what did I say? Ki rest will happen in the heaven or hell. They will be get the results of their karmic results. Nothing more than that. And rest the thing is very much common in this world.
Yes.
If you
Yes.
perfect yourself, you will be happy there. If you are imperfect here, then you will not be happy there. But the question of evolution of our Srinivasan sir is concerned, so this evolution is from within. You evaluate it, evolve yourself in such a way that you attain perfection here and now. And if you attain perfection here, you will be the happiest person in the heaven. If you not, you will be facing the result as per your karmic deeds.
Sir, if we believe in Niskam Karma in Bhagavad Gita, the simply slogan is be good and make others good, do good for others, don't expect the consequence. What will happen if I shall be good? This is not Niskam Karma. You just become good, you just do good. That is the common factor in all religions.
Yeah,
All
yes, sir. I
rest,
do
all
agree.
yes. If anything will be left, then what will be my fate? No, this is not niskam karma. This way one cannot be perfect. There is no question at all. You have to be perfect, be perfect. Because this is the only life. This is the only life which is very pragmatic. All else, so therefore Ranjit Ghosh sir said, why I am referring him again and again, he said this is a question of ethics, this is not a question of metaphysics. Here we are discussing something about human life from the perspective of ethics only, whether I should live an ethical life or an unethical life. If I am living an ethical life, my life
Yeah,
can be called a divine life.
yeah.
That is the very clear, very clear.
This
There
is
is
the
no
empirical
doubt at
status.
all. No doubt
This
at
is
all.
this is the empirical status.
And this is what she said in and she has given a catalog of philosophers,
No, this I say.
and that is very beautiful. I am not going to that, but I am including all religions, and I am saying this common factor is there, that we should be. Therefore,
No,
Vivekananda
this is
said.
already. I have I have already stated the same thing, sir.
Therefore, I agree with you, sir. Therefore, Vivekananda said, "Be good and do good." All philosophy begin and end here. Be good and do good. We don't have any calculation, mathematical calculation, what will happen after my death, whether I shall go to heaven or hell. These questions are beautiful in philosophical discussion, but here we are discussing about ethics. And if you are good, then you are divine. In Bhagavad Gita, in the 16th chapter, Daivasura. So, what are the divine qualities and what are the devil qualities? Yes, we are discussing that in Bhagavad Gita. If you are perfect, you are divine. If you are imperfect, you are devil. So
I was
the
just
choice, the
speaking
choice
from
is
her.
the
I
choice is
was
yours.
speaking from her point of view, from the Islamic point of view. That's why. Otherwise, everything is common. Whatever religion you feel, to be good, to do good,
Do
and to
good.
behave good
Huh.
is found in each and every religion.
Yes, yes, sir.
It is a universal concept. It
Yes,
is a
sir.
universal concept.
Yes,
Right
sir.
from Descartes, right from Socrates to till now, even the sophists agreed
Yes,
on it.
sir. Yes, sir.
Even
All.
the sophists agreed on it. So these are the basic things. We are not going to discuss the basic things here. We, as per her lecture is concerned, she was telling the same thing you have said.
Yes,
But
sir. Yes, sir.
yeah, but what did she say? My question was, she said कि Al Hafiz, just I'm forgetting the name. The person after doing nice work and if he is perfected, then he becomes immortal. But the soul is immortal according to our religion and according to Islam also.
Yes,
The
sir. Yes,
only
sir.
difference is
Yes,
there
sir.
is no comeback in Islam and there is coming back here.
But
This
here
is
I,
common.
sir, here I
But
am
rest
adding,
things are the same, I think.
sir, here I am adding that even if one does not believe in immortality of soul, even if one does not believe in the existence of soul like Buddhism, there also this factor is not
I
denied.
mean, because it is an empirical philosophy, it is a
Yes, sir.
natural philosophy.
Yes,
And
sir.
when it is a natural philosophy, he will have to do all these things. Whatever,
Yes, sir.
every, if you go through the history of religion, you will find that the entire moral things, moral ethics, moral concepts and precepts have been prescribed by the same doctor, so by the same physician, and they have done all these things in a similar way. There is no difference.
Sir, that means we can reverse the sentence. We can reverse the sentence.
Of
You,
course.
you are free to have your own speculation, but you have to live a well-lived life.
Yeah, well lived life.
You
Every
are
religion
free.
says
You
that.
are free to have your own religion. You are
Religion,
free to have your own speculation,
of course.
but you have to live a well-lived life. We can
That's why it
reverse.
is said.
We can reverse the sentence.
Yeah. He
Thank you,
preps
sir.
well,
Sir,
he does well.
I agree with all of you. Today's discussion is very nice.
So nice. And I'm really very happy with this discussion. And I congratulate once more to our learned speaker, Leila Chamankhah. Thank you very much for a nice deliberation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone and for giving me such an opportunity to discuss this issue with you. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yes, Professor Krishnamurti sir, you want to say something? Yes. Krishnamurti sir, yes. Want to say something?
Yeah,
Yes.
Professor Laila,
Thanks, Professor Kumar.
Professor Laila, you have really given an excellent, speech on Felicity, and other people also spoke about ethics and all, which I thoroughly understand. But my question has not been cleared yet is that I am not here for any argument, but it's only for understanding purpose. Though I may fail to understand, my the question which I posed was relating to the spiritualistic world, whereas you are speaking about the materialistic world of joy, happiness, pleasure, and lead a happy life and then attain immortality. My question is beyond that. It is in the spiritual world how that immortality happens when you and Professor Vatsa also told that you are liable to be prosecuted if you are not perfect in your current life. Yes, I accept. But then the question is in the spiritualistic world, what happens to you say it is immortal? When all the souls are immortal, then again I raise a question regarding evolution theory. How does it happen? Then how? What is the meaning of the genealogy table, which still remain unanswered? This is what my doubt and speculation. It's not for any other purpose. Thank you.
Yes, Professor Srinivasan sir. Well, to this I say, well, immortality. Well, going by the Islamic interpretation, well, if all the souls are immortal, okay, there is also an evolution. There is also a transformation in the soul through the body while in life. So, leading a good life, leading a virtuous life, there can be a transformation in the inner through the external. So, nothing is negated. As yes, Professor Pramod Das was pointing out at Ranjit Ghosh sir hinting at leading a virtuous life is not denying the external. Okay, we have to live in this world, but still leading a perfect life, leading a virtuous life can make us move towards an inner journey. And many of us or most of us do fail. That is the problem. Most of us do fail. Even in Leila Chamankhah's madam's lectures, he also said perfection is the aim, is the purpose, is the goal. While in life souls are immortal, but the purpose is same. When you talk of any religion, attaining that perfection, but only a few attain. Okay, that's the problem. And those perfect souls, on reaching what on the day of judgment, they may be okay sent to hell or heaven. That's all over. So in the Islamic tradition, there is no coming back. So whatever is done, whatever drama that we do on earth, in the act of perfecting ourselves, we have really attained that perfection. We are to heaven. Okay, we are to heaven or to hell, and no coming back. That is the position of his. Yes, thank you, sir. That is the position.
Sir, I shall just say one
Yes, thank you.
sentence.
Yes, sir.
One
Yes, sir.
sentence.
Yes, sir.
We should not misunderstand the spirituality. Okay, virtuous life. Aristotle is speaking about virtuous life. Living a life of happiness in the true sense is the spiritual. That is spirituality. Spirituality is not believing in immortality. Spirituality means living a life of happiness, living a life of contentment. That is spirituality. What is materiality? What is material allurement? Our attachment for falsity, our attachment for that which is subject to change. That is materiality. Spirituality means real contentment. As somebody said, perhaps Ghosh sir said, that's Stita Prajna. That is spirituality. If you are Stita, if you are indifferent, if you are not, if you are stable in both likes and dislikes, failures and success, that is spirituality. And that life is the perfect life, irrespective of religions. Very simple. Here no religion will be taken into account. Though Dr. Leila Madam belongs to a particular religion, she is referring this model to Islam. Therefore, because I am a Hindu, I shall see whether this model is fitting to my religion or not. But personally, I found that this is such a model which can be accepted in all religions. No religion will say you be violent, you live an imperfect life. Nobody. So the rest of all, whether you believe in immortality or not, whether you believe in soul or not, even you may not believe in God, these are all optional. These are all optional. But the
Yes.
common factor is that you should live a perfect life because you are a human being. Because this is a human possibility. This is not expected from an animal. This is not expected from a plant. This is the human possibility. Minimum requirement that we should be happy. And this is the only life, as scientifically speaking, this is the only life. Suppose we are debating. Scientists will say, Hetuvadis will say, that there is no second life, there is no continuity of life. We shall say there is continuity of life. So there are two opinions, but we have to find what is the common factor. Common factor is neither nationalists nor traditionalists will deny this span of life where I should be good, where I should do my sadharma, where I should be perfect. This much. And I congratulate Leila Madam. She is very pertinent, she is very clear, and she is very humble in her submission. Thank you.
And
Thank
that's
you.
why,
Now,
sir, Rumi has categorically said, कि all these perfect persons जहां रेस्ट करती है रूहे तमन्ना, हर एक उस मंजिल को मैं चाहता हूं. Everyone should aspire for that life which is perfect from within, which is pious and humble. Thank you, Leila Chamankhah, for your brilliant exposition
yes.
and thought-provoking.
Dr. Rao,
Sir.
Thank you.
we shall end here. So now you give vote of thanks.
Okay. So, lot of thanks to everybody. Well, before proposing a vote of thanks, well, this discussion can continue long. One thing that I can say for sure is religion whatsoever is real. Nobody can deny that religion is not real. Religion is real, whatever the religion you may be, because we are practicing it. So it is real. But when we come to the idea of God, soul, okay, we may say it is real or imaginary. Okay, real or imaginary, and that is debatable, and that is never ending process. Our lives will end up, but the debate will never end. So this is my submission. Religion, it is real, no debate on this. We are living a religion, we are living in a religion, we are practicing religion, But when we talk of God, real or imaginary, that debate will continue, whether he has attributes, no attributes, whether he's in form or no form. All these questions, it's a never-ending story. Our life will end, but the debate will never end. So this is my this is how I see from a sociological standpoint. Thank you. But today's discussion really attracted all of us for a very good discussion, because he said that this life is a life for perfection. The journey on this planet to this planet is for perfecting ourselves, though the self is
Very
imperfect.
nice, very nice, very
This
nice.
life, thank you. This life is
Thank
for
you.
perfection, and those who attain perfection reach heaven, and those who don't, they reach hell, and that's the end of the story. So this is one model that Dr. Professor Chamankhah is suggesting us. So thank you very much, madam, for your lecture, because you have given a list of thinkers, or if you saints or mystics whom we have heard. Myself I've heard for the first time, but listening to you, have come across their philosophies a bit of understanding of them. Thank you for that. So also thank you for the from the core of my heart, because you're from you have brought in to this family. You're learning from the Arabic texts, which we don't understand well. So that knowledge you try to share with us. Well, there may be differences vis-a-vis religions that we need to cannot compare, because we have to see things from a certain model, and this is the model that you are suggesting. And thank you for that, for bringing your ideas before us. And then I thank Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir for his um, ideas, and he's for raising a central question, and today too raising you know raising the concept of happiness, eudaimonia, from the Aristotelian point, which he tried to see happiness lies in both the external and the internal. So that's how Professor Ghosh, I am thankful to Professor Ghosh for his good understanding and initiating the debate, and which Professor Srivastav took it very nicely. Professor Das commented on this, and we had good observations from Vamsidhar Cherukapalli. And the question that Professor Srinivasan Krishnan raised, it's not a small question, it's a very interesting question, very beautiful question, because that has really helped us to make a comparative account between the two traditions, how we see in one tradition the idea of soul and resurrection, rebirth, and all this, but how we see in Islam and the Sufi tradition, how the life ends up, okay, after death, and there is no idea of resurrection, and the entire journey, whatever we see, is a limited life. Well, Leila Chamankhah is very much sure that everybody cannot be perfected, only a selected few get perfected, and this is not a small message. And had everybody been perfected, this world would have not been a drama, everybody would have been mystics, and we are not all mystics. Okay, we are leading a life, so only a selected few really become perfect, and they go to heaven, and the rest, they are condemned to hell, and that is the end of the story from the Islamic tradition. That's what Professor Chamankhah is suggesting us, and that's from a model, and I really respect her for giving this idea. And we may differ from a different tradition, and that's a totally different matter. So also I thank everybody, our admin Pramod Das, our Professor Krishnamurti Srinivasan, because the question that he raised is also amounts to brings in a lot of debate. Also thankful to Ranjit Ghosh sir, and Cherukupalli sir, and Srivastav sir, and everybody who took part in the discussion. And above all, I thank Dr. Chamankhah for sparing her time and doing a lot of research on various thinkers and bringing that knowledge before us to have a discussion on this. And this has really enlightened us in different ways. Thank you so much, madam. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. Now I move to our admin for proposal, and also thank Krishnamurti sir for his objection, because the debate cannot be one-sided. An opposition is greatly needed, a constructive opposition that I could see in Srinivas and Krishnamurti sir. And that really brought in again a debate, because without a constructive opposition, we cannot really progress. And that really, okay, when there is a friction, then only something can sign. And that is what has happened. And really thankful to even Krishnamurti sir for his questions and the observations made by all. So let us move to our admin, Professor Das for his last comment and
Dr.
declare.
Rao,
Sir,
Dr. Leila Madam has not slept
acha,
this night because now this is early morning in USA.
acha,
So before 4 hours,
hmm,
when it was midnight,
acha.
we were chatting on WhatsApp.
Hmm.
So I asked her that still you are waking. So she replied that I am preparing my slides.
Oh,
You
very
see,
nice.
you see at the time of 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. at night,
Hmm.
she has not slept because
Okay.
this is perfect life. This is emotion. This is commitment. So we should live this present moment very lively. Who have seen tomorrow? Nobody has seen tomorrow. The speaker can remain awake the whole night to deliver a talk in the early morning. Now it is early morning in USA. Okay, can you believe this? This is pragmatic. I salute her. I salute her. Thank you. We are enjoying our evening now. But this is early morning and she has not slept the last night. Thank you, madam. With this meeting is declared closed. Grateful to all of you.
Thank
Grateful
you
to
all.
all of you.
Thank you all. Thank you all.